Greetings, brothers and sisters. Bunch of World War III economic collapse stuff to get to. Let's start off here with Kanye. White Lives Matter. This is his new girlfriend, or is that that might be Candace Owens, right? I don't know. But this was a post from his Instagram. Everyone knows that Black Lives Matter was a scam. Now it's over. You're welcome. So this is when I said war, I meant war. I'm not sure who this is about. But Kanye's sort of back on Instagram. Then somebody sent me this.
As dating material, what's his most charismatic quality?
I don't know. Ask the other girls.
Wow, she's really ghouling it up, right? She must be in her 40s or something, but, you know. She just made him a romantic comedy with Pete Davidson, and she doesn't dig him. This guy's still looking sad, right? I'm leaving this up for future videos. Okay, so I got some headlines I want to get to here. Some of them I covered yesterday, and then I want to get to Putin and JoJo Magoo. I got other stuff that I'm not covering today. I'll cover tomorrow. That's it's just a lot of stuff going on. A huge number of zombie companies are drowning in debt. This CEO sees a reckoning as interest rates soar. Okay, so I talked about the zombie economy. So I think somebody sent me this because it's sort of catching on here in some way. Bill Gates says political polarization may bring it all to an end and could even lead to civil war. So I covered that yesterday. It says here, Russian pipeline Nord Stream 2. This was a story about this pipeline that sends, I think, natural gas from Russia to Europe. And it's got holes in it, and the only real logical suspect is the United States. Putin blamed them. You know, both Europe and Russia are depending on this pipeline. And Putin blamed the United States. Somebody sent me this. Kamala Harris roasted with satirical video comparing her to Veep character. This is on Sky News Australia. I'm not going to show you it because they'll copyright it. It's a Comedy Central thing. But it's really a good comparison because they're very similar. Their insincerity is similar. So here's JoJo Magoo, and he's in Puerto Rico. I want to show you his bit here, and then we'll go to Putin.
Joe Biden, and I don't want the headline to read, Biden brings storm to Puerto Rico. So I'm going to maybe have to cut this a little short. Let me start.
Come on, JoJo.
Start off by saying that Jill and I...
He's Jill's husband.
And thank you very much for that lovely introduction. Jill and I we're anxious to be here. You know...
You're anxious to be there. You're anxious to get there. You're not anxious to be there. You're there. We're anxious. We don't understand. Who are you guys?
I come from the little state of Delaware. It's not like the congresswoman from New York. She's from the big state. But
I'm from a little state because I'm sure you guys don't understand what America's all about. You know, Puerto Rico's part of America. It's an American territory. And they have it's almost a state, right? It's pretty close to being a state, unlike the Virgin Islands and some of these other places. And so, I mean, he's so condescending and ridiculously clueless here.
We have a very, in relative terms, large Puerto Rican population in Delaware, relative to our population.
It's 2,000 people, right? It's only 2,000 people. He said the same thing about Somalians. The New York Post is crapping all over him, despite the fact that only 2,000 people of Puerto Rican ancestry live in Delaware.
We have the 8th largest black population in the country, and between all minorities, we have 20% of our state is minority. And so I'm
sure they love being called minorities. And that's, pretty much every state has that breakdown, right?
I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home politically.
the gaffes just keep on piling up with this MNFer.
So we came here for a long time, both for business and pleasure, since you're part of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals and Delaware is as well, and I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I spent a lot of time in the northern part of the state. But look.
What do you mean by a lot of time? Like he's trying to say that he always does this and he's really bad at it.
It's people like you who do so much for your community.
People like you.
And are going to make such a big difference as Puerto Rico rebuilds. Thank you, Governor, for your partnership as we work together to help rebuild Puerto Rico. And I mean rebuild it all, and rebuild it in a resilient way. So you don't, when storms come again, which they will, they're not having the damage they caused before.
Woo! Woo! He's going to give us a bunch of money. Woo!
Puerto Ricans have lost loved ones in this storm and in the perilous disasters. And the number can feel abstract sometimes when you hear a number, but every number.
You can abstract numbers, like 25, it's so abstract. 200,000, so abstract. 2,000.
Is a person. Every life lived. We read the obituaries and remembrances, and they all feel like people we knew. Doting grandparents, devoted parents, christened children, longtime neighbors, people who cared about their community and made a difference.
They made a difference. He just made a difference in his pants.
My administration is also providing financial assistance to help families and individuals right away. Many families are scrambling to pay their bills right now to fill up their gas tank, to put food on the table. They can register at FEMA cash assistance for $700.
Okay, where's that money coming from, JoJo?
To help cover the essentials for just a little while. So far, nearly 200,000 households across Puerto Rico have received this cash assistance.
How many households?
$700 won't replace what you lost, not even close, but it can help take care of some of the little basics while you catch your breath and get back on your feet. And FEMA has made crisis counselors available when you're, whether you're a survivor or a first responder. If you need help or just someone to talk to, people are here for you.
The FEMA's there for you. That's their slogan.
Flooding and couldn't be reached. And during the storm, when the waters were rising, people went to extraordinary lengths to help each other survive. We've seen people using a raft and a boat tied to a rope.
A raft and a boat tied to a rope.
Brave the raging waters and rescue neighbors trapped.
And brave that raging water and rescue a trap.
In their homes. You know, they aren't paratroopers or search and rescue professionals.
They're not. They just a guy with a boat and a rope and a raft. A boat and a rope and a raft.
They just regular folks ready and willing to do whatever they could do.
Regular folks with a boat, a raft, and a hoe. I mean, a boat and a rope, a boat and hose. Maybe it's boat and hose.
Boats and hose.
Do when their help was needed, when the neighbor was in trouble. And thanks to them, all the people of Puerto Rico, this recovery from Fiona is underway. I'm encouraged by all the stories that are opening up.
Opening up some of these stories.
Hospitals that have kept running, the supply chains that held steady, and the debris has already begun to be cleared.
Debris everywhere.
On roads across the island, and we will continue the debris coverage.
You have to spray Febreze on his bottom.
Still, we have to do more. We have to ensure that when the next hurricane strikes, Puerto Rico is ready. Today, I'm announcing more than $60 million in funding to help coastal areas in Puerto Rico.
Woo, look at you. Woo.
Become better prepared for the storm.
Woo.
They've been through a lot the past 5 years. I want to applaud the Red Cross volunteers who came as far away as California, Louisiana, Minnesota, Texas to help however they can. And New York sent not only a congresswoman, the most congresswoman in the Congress, but a state.
She's the most congresswoman in the Congress. Let's hear that again. Where are you going with this one?
As California, Louisiana, Minnesota, Texas to help however they can. And New York sent not only a congresswoman, the most congresswoman in the Congress, but
the most congresswoman in the whole Congress of the Congress.
State troopers and emergency responders.
The guy, I mean, and then here. Woo. Woo, look at you. Here, come on, here. No, don't get him.
I'll bring
run
up the
away.
Do you mind go?
Come on, get over here.
I was up in New York with the mayor and with the governor. And what they wanted to talk to me about,
It's gonna get handsy.
they wanted to talk to me about Puerto Rico.
Oh,
Remember? We sat there?
Yes.
And so it is one of the best congresswomen in the congresspersons in the entire Congress. And she's
one of the entire Congress, a congresswoman.
were you born here?
Yes, I was born here.
I said-
And my family, my entire family is here.
It's here? All right, I hope I don't
Nine
get you in
brothers
trouble
and
with my...
sisters.
9 brothers and sisters. Well, God bless you.
Joe wants a piece of every one of them. He wants a glom on. He wants to smell every one of them.
I tell you what, my mother used to think that anybody who had that many children, we only had 4, she'd say, no purgatory for mom, straight to heaven.
Thank you.
Straight to heaven.
Thank you.
Anyway.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We love you.
Straight to heaven. Okay, straight to heaven for you.
The West is looking for opportunities to challenge Russia, to break it apart. Such has always been its intention.
So he really sets in on America here.
This form of hegemony the West wants to install and keep, such is its real intention. And that is why. That is why the West has been trying to challenge the democratic process, has been trying to
So there's that.
corrupt it into this, and if they can succeed, they will destroy other countries, create humanitarian disasters, they will destroy millions of human lives.
So he's laying it on hard, right? He's coming after America, the great Satan, right? I mean, this is...
Succeed, they will destroy other countries, create humanitarian disasters, they will destroy millions of human lives. Indeed, they will sow terrorism through protectorates, colonies, semi-colonies. They will stop at nothing to reach their objectives. And that is because it is because of that intention that the West has been waging war on Russia.
So here he goes on to say, suppression of freedoms begins to look like a preferred religion, outright Satanism. And so he talks about a bunch of things, the immorality in America and just all of it. And, you know, I don't see this not ending up in war. It could, like anything's possible, but that's where it's headed, and I don't see anything stopping it. And so I had a whole bunch of other stuff to get to. Bill O'Reilly is talking about how news is dead. I've been waiting to get to that for a couple of days, and a bunch of other things. But I'm running out of time again, so I'll get to it tomorrow. But what I want to say here is, you know, everything dies, and I think people all know that. But there is a dying arc. There is a point when something is in the death phase, right? It could be your car, it could be a house, it could be a city, it could be a world, it could be a country, it could be an island, it could be, you know, any number of things. Certainly any living organism, a business, a culture, a way of life, an economy. Everything dies. Everything has its ending phase. And when you're in the ending phase, you usually don't give an F, right? You see old people, they just don't care as much anymore, right? They're not, you know, they're starting to think of death as a good thing. Many of them are welcoming it, you know, they think about it quite often. You know, when I got really sick with Omicron and I had no vital energy, right? And, you know, you just don't have any fight left. And the older you get, the less fight you have. And so, you know, unless somebody's completely in denial, you start making terms, you know, you start coming to terms with the inevitability of your death, and you just don't care about stuff. You don't, you know, give an F anymore. Less and less. I mean, some people get very fearful, whatever it is, confused. I mean, there's that. But, you know, people, as they get older, they just, you know, anything when you pass the point where you realize, oh, I'm screwed, right? When you're going out of business, you take unnecessary risks. You just don't care as much, right? And you see that in our society because everything is breaking down. You see everything breaking down. The media is breaking down. The media is a complete joke. What's on television, what's, in terms of movies, all these things. But our culture is breaking down, right? People's families are breaking down. Their religion or belief in God is breaking down. And just, everything in terms of our morality, and I'm not talking about religious morality, I'm talking about just ethics and morality, but also spiritual morality, divine reality. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's just breaking down. People are breaking down physically and mentally. You get more and more crazy people, hypersensitivity, hyper-victimization. Everybody's offended all the time. And then people's capacity to work and endure pain. People's capacity to endure disappointment. People's ability to overcome difficulties, obstacles. Those are all signs of death, right? In the natural world, if you can't make the grade, if you're not fast enough, if you're not ferocious enough, if you're not, if you're a predator or you're a prey animal or, both, right? Many are both, right? If you're not fast enough and you're not alert enough and, you're not on your game, then you are dinner, right? You're dinner, like, or whatever it is. And so, you have to be strong, you have to be alert, you have to be competent, you have to be good at things. And we're none of those things. You're in a daze, you're oblivious. And criminals can tell just by your body language that you're going to be an easy target, right? People who are, just not there, or not present, they're just gone, in a daze, not alert, not in denial of their human existence. They're going to be targeted more times than not, right? When all things like this are present, when your country's falling apart, which our country is, and you got a president like our president, and there's division, and people just don't care anymore, that's when you're going to get into wars like a nuclear war, because people are oblivious. They can't really understand, why you wouldn't have nuclear war, or they don't believe it's possible. They're so disconnected from reality that this fear that so many of us grew up with, whatever your older people grew up with, is now become something that'll never happen, or maybe it won't be so bad, or whatever it is, right? And clearly, America's pushing for nuclear war, whether the powers that be are making that happen, whatever reason for it, it's there, and they're trying to provoke Russia and have been ever since Russia war-blocked America in Syria. You guys remember that. America was rolling through these countries, and Russia said no to Syria because of their alliance with Iran, and they, want to put a stop to that. And American governments, democratic officials have been pouting ever since, right? And Russia's been targeted. They restarted the Cold War because Russia wouldn't let them continue their Arab Spring nonsense and destroy people's lives and countries and annex them. I mean, that's what we saw, right? That was our country. Like what happened in Libya, I mean, what I was watching, this happened in Libya, and the UN was involved with that, and, stuff to do with my spiritual organization, their relationship with Heartfulness, the relationship with the UN, grew even worse. And that's when I was trying to communicate to them what a nightmare that is, and they just didn't want to listen. I mean, it's a bad time for me. The Libya thing was one of when I realized America is just this evil empire. I mean, I'm not saying Russia's good, and that's how people think. Are you saying Russia's good? No, I'm not. I'm saying, America is unhinged, and this is a time where things are breaking down all over the world because people are breaking down. We've been living unnatural lives for so long that we are, just gone in terms of our ability to function, and we rely more and more on a dying system. And so therefore we're very close to extinction, even though we don't know it, because we don't know what it's like to be natural human beings. We've lost our way. We're stupider even, right? Even though we have more technology, we're stupider. It's this idiocracy. And so when you're in that state, that's when your system dies, right? Whether it's your culture, whether it's your economic system, whether it's your energy system, People are apathetic. They don't want to work. They're lazy, right? They're entitled. They have, attitudes, whatever. And whatever, breaks down first, it doesn't matter. It's like a domino effect, and that's what's happening, right? And now it seems like they're hell-bent on nuclear war. They're pushing for it. We see it. It's happening, and they're not stopping. They're not backing down. And why would they, right? Why would they back down? Because they're like ghoulish themselves. They're already, lost their way. They don't feel, some sort of human like emotions and feelings. They aren't connected to their hearts. They're not even, look at how unconscious JoJo Magoo is, how clueless Kamala is. Remember when this first started happening, I brought up that Sting song, I hope the Russians love their children too, because it's important, right? Like that's an important concept that at least one side will be sane. And I don't have faith that anybody will be. And they're just hell-bent on this thing. And right now, it doesn't look like anything's going to stop it. I mean, like I said, it might stop. There's always, people can come to their senses, but I don't count on the divine process stopping it. I don't count on any of those things, right? And, I don't even think divine intervention's an option at this point. If there is going to be nuclear war, then it's going to happen soon. If that's, going to happen, well, it's definitely going to happen now because there's nothing to stop it. There's not enough good in the world to stop something like that. And, it's the end of a yuga. It's pulling for things like this, right? It's the end of a bad system. There's all this, bad energy, bad samskaras, bad spiritual decisions and evil doings that need to be accounted for. And the accounting system, the divine consequences that are coming, nuclear war and all these things would be a good way to, to make all that built up bad energy, bad karma, as people would say, right? There's going to be destruction, and so that would take care of it. I mean, that would at least be the start, especially if you're bringing in some sort of transition. What I'm saying here is like we got 4-stage cancer or stage 4 cancer, stage 4, 4-stage cancer. And when you're in that kind of situation, then life isn't as precious to you, right? Or maybe it's even more precious depending if you're not crazy. But crazy, selfish people, when they're, they've lost their way completely, then the idea of nuclear war isn't mad anymore, right? When they built the first atomic bombs and said that they were a deterrent, that was only if the people who had them couldn't imagine using them. But America used them. We used them on Japan. And so once that happened, then the possibility of bombing people in a war situation, many civilians wiping them out, I mean, the things that were done there. And so when you're in that kind of a situation where people have no moral compass and they're hostile and they're all these things, and they're, themselves cancerous, not only physically, but spiritually and morally and all these other things. And so that's where we are. So the likelihood of this going south, I mean, they keep on pushing Russia, and Russia's pushing back, and who knows what kind of deal they have with China. And, it's not just that. America's been like this punky guy who's deserved to get his ass kicked, right? Somebody who's, just bullying the world and all this stuff with the Arab Spring Wars and financially and every other possible way. My wife just told me this Henry Kissinger quote, that it's dangerous to be the enemy of the United States, but to be America's friend is deadly. And so either way. And so it's just one of those, those paradigms or social constructs where somebody acts out in a way so that they get put in their place, right? They're looking to get, smacked around or something like this. They're just, not just in the sense of physically beaten down, but, acting in a cocky, arrogant way and just, pulling as much bad energy towards themselves as possible. And America's been doing that for a while. And at some point, it's just going to collapse. And we're not going to be number one. We're not going to be the best military. We're not going to be the strongest economy. All these, these things that are hurting us, right? It's when somebody's money and power is hurting them so much, they self-sabotage and they're, a little bit suicidal and all the rest of these things. And you see that with the American system. This practitioner of Heartfulness wrote me this, or sent a excerpt of this talk between Master Chargy, the third master of the Heartfulness system, and a practitioner of the system. And Chargy said he was holding the minds of all the. I think I read this quote somewhere. I don't want to find it right now, but he's holding the minds of all the leaders to prevent them from going to nuclear war. Like he was spiritually creating a calming effect on all the minds of these world leaders, so they wouldn't push for nuclear war because they're so self-destructive, right? And, given all that I know about the current president of the system, I don't think he's doing that, if you've listened to my Journey series. And so even something like that. So as far as I can tell, this is something that's historical. It's something that's already going to be a historical event. It's planned. It's a part of the divine plan, and it's going to happen, right? It's inevitable. It's, it's not, we can't escape it. And the people that run the system don't want to. And many people who are just so oblivious and, are just so stupid and remedial in their consciousness and their ability to understand what's going on in the world. And so, this thing's coming. You can only put it off for so long. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paravano, definitely born for the Apocalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.